The Dodgers pitching was bad this weekend, but I don't think it's bad overall. So let's talk about it. Let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Tax Network USA. Did you know that it's never too late to resolve your tax issues with the IRS? Don't wait. Reduce your tax debt and get help from a team of licensed tax professionals. Call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. This is a daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. You can get every day by listening or watching every day, which can be made easier by subscribing and get notified when our episodes are ready for you. You can do that wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. If this is your first time listening or watching, welcome. My name is Vince Samperio. I'm usually joined by co-host Jeff Snyder. But just me today. Jeff and I are lifelong Dodger fans that have covered the team for a decade in various capacities, writing about the team, interviewing players, talking about the team. And you've been doing this podcast here for a greater part of that decade. So we've seen a lot of Dodgers. We've talked a lot about the Dodgers, and we're going to continue to do so on this here podcast for about 30 minutes for you every Monday through Friday. And once again, that's what I'm here to do today. The Dodgers lost the series to the Giants this weekend in San Francisco. They allowed 22 runs, 10 plus 7 plus 5. 22 runs. The most runs in a 3-game series they've allowed in San Francisco since the opening of what is now called Oracle Park. So the pitching was historically bad in a sense, and it didn't get any better. It was progressively worse in terms of starting pitching as the weekend went on. Landon Knack on Friday was pitching very, very well, struck out 7 in less than 5 innings, but the unfortunate part was that he didn't get through the 5th inning. Did pass it on to the bullpen. The bullpen ended up giving up the majority of the runs on that night. But then you get into Saturday and Tyler Glasnow, who you expect to pitch very well, especially against a Giants team that's not necessarily known for its hitting. Only went 3 innings, gave up 5 runs, and only struck out 1. And then you get to Sunday, and while Paxton did make it through 4 innings, he gave up 12 hits and 9 runs and 2 walks, and his season ERA jumped to 4.28. The Dodgers, even in the game they won, they still allowed 7 runs and had to go to extra innings. So it was not a great weekend for the Dodgers pitching in general. But I don't think it's one of those things where, oh my God, the Dodgers pitching is bad. I do think the Dodgers pitching needs help when it comes down to an October series. I don't think the Dodgers pitching as it presently stands could get through the rest of this regular season and still win the NL West and still be competing for a top 2 seed in the National League. But I don't think it's, as presently created, I don't think it's the best or most optimal pitching staff to get through a postseason series. And that's really what it comes down to. Now, obviously, Glasnow being bad is one of those things that you can't necessarily control. He's had a few bad games, maybe 2 or 3 bad games this season, and he's had a lot of really, really good games, and then he's had a couple games that are just okay. So I don't think there's anything wrong with Glasnow. It just didn't look like he had feel for any of his pitches, and the fastball was getting hit. The one thing that did stand out from Saturday and Sunday specifically with Glasnow and Paxton was that the Giants jumped on the fastball. And I think, with Glasnow, he just didn't really have his other pitches. I mean, he got the one strikeout was on a curveball, but most of his curveballs were getting spiked, not really that competitive. And, there wasn't really anything to swing at, and he had to go to the fastball, and the fastball is getting hit by the Giants for the most part, and Paxton, kind of the same thing on Sunday where they maybe went in looking for the fastball up in the zone, and they got it a few times, and they jumped on it, and then Paxton did try to mix in the other pitches in the third inning, but didn't quite have them, and he has to go back to. There was a lot of two-strike counts where Paxton went to a fastball in favorable two-strike counts, and it just didn't work out for him. And obviously a little bit of scouting on the Giants' end, so hunting for that fastball. And Austin Barnes admitted after the game that maybe they didn't make the adjustment quick enough, and James Paxton just said, "Hey, it wasn't really my day." And with Paxton, he's an interesting case, but I don't think there's too much to say about him. He's was signed to be a number 4 or 5 starter for the Dodgers. Realistically, he's been, now with his ERA now up this way, he's been about what a 4 or 5 starter could be. And what hurt him the most is that he didn't give them length on Sunday, but for the most part, he's given the Dodgers length. He's kept them in most ball games, and he's pitched well more than he's had favorable results more than he's had non-favorable results. And this is one of those where the walks didn't really hurt him. He was just getting hit, and I do think that's a little bit of a reprieve in the sense of, okay, now he's gone a handful of starts without having too many issues with walks. But this one he was getting hit. And with a guy who really kind of has a 2-pitch mix and mixes in another pitch, not necessarily the thing you're looking for. But overall, I don't think the Dodgers pitching is a worry right now. I do think that if this was the pitching staff you went into a postseason series with, it would be a worry. But again, I don't expect that to be the case for more than a few reasons. One of those being guys getting healthy. One of those being the Dodgers making a move at the deadline and upgrading the roster. And the other part is that it's one of those where, Blake Trinan, he gave up the walk-off home run on Friday night in the bottom of the 9th inning. He wasn't going to go the entire season with a 0 ERA. And now his ERA is over 3. But that's all coming from a grand slam that he gave up at home against whoever it was. And now the 2-run walk-off home run he gave up here. And while, again, I don't expect him to have a 0 ERA, I don't expect him to give up home runs very often. So I don't think there's too much concern on the end of Blake Trinan. Daniel Hudson gave up a run on Friday and allowed the inherited runner to score on Saturday. Again, he is, your 7th inning guy and one of the guys you count on in the later innings. As from everything we've seen this season, he started off a little rough. He got really good. And then, the inherited runner, I'm not too worried about. The other run, yeah, not ideal. But again, I don't think it's a matter of, oh my God, Daniel Hudson sucks. I think it's just a matter of he didn't have a good day that day. And the rest of the bullpen actually was pretty decent over the weekend. I mean, they threw a lot of guys after Glasnow only went 3 on Saturday, and only one of them gave up a run, and that was Yohan Ramirez, and that was an inning and a third. But then you have, Vesia came in. Well, Vesia is the one that actually allowed the run to score. But and then you have, Peterson, a couple strikeouts, Banda, an inning, a couple strikeouts. Trinan came back, struck out a guy in an inning. Evan Phillips threw an inning. Daniel Hudson threw an inning. It did allow the run, but like I said, it was the ghost runner or whatever you want to call it. And then Ryan Yarbrough closed out the game. And then on Sunday, you only get 4 innings from Paxton, but the Dodgers were able to get a little bit of length out of Peterson. Yohan Ramirez was throwing again, and then Evan Phillips did give up a run, but by that point, the game was out of it. So all in all, this is all to say that the Dodgers had a bad weekend in San Francisco. Maybe they had some better scouting and guys didn't have feels for their stuff, and they had to go to the fastball a little bit more. But I don't think the Dodgers pitching staff is a worry at the moment. I do think there is a worry moving forward, but the Dodgers can get through the rest of the regular season how they are, and that's not counting Yamamoto possibly coming back. That's not counting Kershaw coming back. That's not counting, other guys coming back. And then the bullpen, Brusdar Graterol coming back, Joe Kelly coming back, and different things like that. And then the one thing we did see over the weekend, or maybe you didn't see, Bob Nightingale reported that the White Sox were trying to talk extension with Garrett Crochet. Those talks kind of broke down, so now it appears that they will be willing or more likely to trade him. Nightingale did say the Dodgers already made an offer for Crochet, and that the White Sox quickly said no. It wasn't known what the offer was or anything like that, any details. But the one detail he did add is that the White Sox are looking for young, promising prospects, and the Dodgers do have some of those. So the fact that they've already made a deal means that they are looking for starting pitching. I don't know if that means that they're concerned about Yamamoto coming back or anything like that, but the Dodgers are trying, and they're trying to make moves. And it's one of those where Crochet is an interesting one because you maybe did want to trade for him early because he hasn't thrown this many innings before, because it is the first year as a starter, and you want to be able to be the one handling the way those innings are thrown the rest of the season, rather than the White Sox, who are supposed to cut back on his innings, but also, don't necessarily have a reason to be all that careful other than trying to get prospects back. But he does have more years of team control. So if he did get, hurt or tired or anything like that, they would have time to recoup. So either way, we'll see what happens. The Dodgers are come back home this week. Bobby Miller gets to start on Tuesday. Will be really interesting to see how he bounces back from his last start being pretty bad. So that's all on the pitching. We're going to talk about the infield a little bit, Chris Taylor and Miguel Rojas specifically. So that's what's coming up. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. The finals are over, but the hoops action doesn't stop on Prize Picks because women's basketball is still heating up, and obviously MLB season is going on, and you can pick your favorite Dodgers if you think, or not today because the Dodgers don't play today, but on Tuesday, if you think Shohei Ohtani is going to have a good game, you can go check out the stats, and you can pick more or less on hits, runs, and RBIs, hits by themselves, runs by themselves, RBI by themselves. You can even pick them to homer, and obviously have a little bit more of a multiplier boost there. You think Bobby Miller's going to have a bounce back start, you can check out what his strikeouts are and pick more or less on that. Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. It's really fun. It keeps you invested in games that, if you don't select Dodgers on your Prize Picks, you can also select players from other teams, and it keeps you invested in those games. And, it's really fun to kind of see and hope that you get that bonus that turns $10 into $1,000. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Today's episode is also brought to you by Tax Network USA. Here on Locked On Dodgers, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs. It's year-round, and you know what else is year-round? Collection season. Just because April has come and passed doesn't mean that tax season is over, because the IRS will never stop coming after you for your unfiled taxes. They can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. If you came up and you don't know what you're doing, and let's just say you are someone that doesn't know what you're doing with your taxes, and you filed incorrectly, or you didn't put enough things, or you forgot to file, and now you're like, oh man, what do I do? Well, you can go to the experts at Tax Network USA, and they can help you out. With over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or finally hit that big parlay and need help correctly filing, call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon, and be sure to mention Locked On Dodgers at checkout, and you'll receive a $250 discount off their services. I thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to find us wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. And if you want to become an everydayer, all you have to do is listen or watch every day, which can be made easier by subscribing. Remember, if you're already on YouTube, you can check out Locked On Sports Today or Locked On Sports Los Angeles, two 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network that provide you with the biggest news and stories from the sports world and the LA sports world. Remember, on Locked On Sports Los Angeles, you can find Locked On Dodgers postcasts with host Pete Fox. After most Dodger games, you can also get his audio feed in our audio. If you're subscribed, you get it in our audio feed. All right, so we found out some details about the Dodgers infield over the weekend. One of those being that Chris Taylor is going to get a little bit more runway at third base. He's going to get a chance to be like more of an everyday third baseman for the Dodgers. And it coincides obviously with him swinging the bat a lot better these last few weeks. And the fact that Kevin Biggio is not good. And the fact that Kike Hernandez has also not been good. So the Dodgers are looking to Chris Taylor to hope that he can continue this way he's going about with this swing. We did find out that Chris Taylor has made a little bit of a change at the plate with this swing. He was still getting used to it, but seems that he's getting into it now, and that you can see the results definitely over the last couple of weeks. He has a slugging percentage of 514. He's OPS in over 800. He's got a couple homers, striking out a lot less compared to what he was earlier in the season. And then you break that down to just the last week, and he's hitting 467 with an OPS over 1200. So, it remains to be seen if this is a new Chris Taylor, if this is a Chris Taylor that can be sustained, or if this is just a hot streak from a player that's been notoriously streaky over the time with the Dodgers. But it's all the Dodgers got right now. There's not many moves to be made without any big trades. There's not necessarily anybody, Andre Lipsius is hitting well down in the minors, but apparently, I would think if his defense was up to par, there would be no reason for him not to be given at least some chance by this point. So you got to imagine that that's a genuinely concern for the Dodgers, or maybe they are just waiting out and seeing if Kevin Biggio could have been a guy, or Kike Hernandez is going to figure it out, or Chris Taylor's going to figure it out. And Chris Taylor seems to be the one that has figured it out, and now he's going to get a chance to play more third base. And I honestly, it makes sense. You have a position where everyone's been bad since Max Muncy went down. I think collectively the batting average is around 150, 160 from guys that have played third base since Muncy went down. You have a guy that has made a swing change that has been hitting better as of late, and who deserves to be in the lineup more often. And I think that's what we're seeing with Chris Taylor. And, honestly, I'm here for it. See what he's got, see if he can, if whatever he did to change at the plate is going to be something that can stick around for the rest of the season, or at least ride the hot streak out till it kind of ends. So it's good for the Dodgers, and we'll just have to wait and see. But definitely, I'd rather see Chris Taylor at the plate than more Biggio at bats at this point. And realistically, I don't know how long Biggio has left. Maybe until Max Muncy comes back, he might last that long. Maybe they do call someone else up, and I don't know. We'll see what happens, but. Chris Taylor deserves this chance that he's getting, and hopefully he takes it and runs with it and gets the Dodgers some to ease the burden of having a down lineup right now with Mookie Betts out and Max Muncy out. The other thing we kind of didn't find out, I guess, but what was talked about over the weekend was Miguel Rojas. His streak of the Dodgers winning every time he got a hit did end on Friday. The Dodgers tried their best when they tied it in the top of the ninth, but unfortunately they lost it in the bottom of the ninth. But regardless, Miguel Rojas has been really good at shortstop for the Dodgers, not just defensively, but offensively. And the one thing that, basically I think one of the reasons the Dodgers did believe in Gavin Lux before the season started. So that's why when Lux moved over to second base, they gave him the runway, and he's played pretty much every day there at second base. Miguel Rojas, in a perfect world, or maybe not a perfect world, but in a world where the Dodgers didn't believe in Gavin Lux, I think Rojas would have for sure been the shortstop on not the everyday shortstop, but almost the everyday shortstop, Mookie would have stayed at second and they would have figured out the rest. That seems to be what's going to happen right now. Miguel Rojas is basically the everyday shortstop. They did mention that after the game on Saturday, Dave Roberts said he was going to give him a day off, and Miguel Rojas kind of agreed with it. And he said that, he's a guy that plays 100% every time he's out there, and that he did feel that he needed to recharge the batteries. And that's one concern with Miguel Rojas and the age and everything else. And, admitting to it, obviously, that he did need to recharge batteries, is that you can't just stick him out there for, every single game. You do have to set him at least once, maybe twice a week. And, that's going to be mixed in here with other guys. Hopefully they, it's one of those things where don't give Will Smith a day off the same day you give Miguel Rojas a day off, and then you have Kike and Austin Barnes in the lineup, and then potentially, guys like Kevin Biggio or guys that are struggling in the lineup. Try to mix up the lineup at least to where you're having guys that have been hitting better of late in the lineup more often. But I do think, for Rojas, it's good to know that the Dodgers are being considerate of not overplaying him. And the other thing is that for the first time, they asked Dave Roberts about Miguel Rojas staying at shortstop even when Mookie Betts comes back. And, Roberts didn't shoot it down. He said that that's something that they're going to consider. Obviously, the defensive presence of Rojas at short can be understated, and, especially with some of Mookie's struggles so far this season. And, coincided with the struggles of Gavin Lux at second base and not being able to hit. I do think that if the Dodgers don't make a move for a shortstop or a middle infielder specifically, that when Mookie Betts does come back, I do think Miguel Rojas is going to stay at short for the most part. Mookie's going to play second. And by that point, if Gavin Lux isn't hitting the cover off the ball, might not, one, be on the roster, or at least might not play obviously every day, and we'll move to a bench role. So it's good to see that the Dodgers are open to it. Obviously, Mookie's going to come back after the trade deadline. So that answer to that question of will Rojas still be the shortstop when Mookie comes back might be answered in a different way. We did get another tidbit from Bob Nightingale saying that looks like the Blue Jays might try to keep Bo Bichette and try it one more year with him and Vlad Guerrero Jr., and none of them will get traded. They did say like guys like Yusei Kikuchi and Justin Turner's name was mentioned, and Yimi Garcia and Kevin Kiermaier are all guys that could potentially be traded. And with today's days off and tomorrow being a mailbag episode, I'm sure we'll talk about some of those names in depth and if they make sense for the Dodgers. But if Bo Bichette doesn't get traded, and obviously Willy Adames probably not getting traded the way the Brewers are playing, it doesn't leave a lot of shortstop roles open, or at least not guys that are, Paul DeJong's playing well for the White Sox, but he also didn't play well for the Cardinals the last couple of years. And, do you really know what you're going to get out of a guy that had a couple bad seasons and then's having a good season this year? That's probably a name that's going to be mentioned. There's not too many other shortstops that you can go out and get. So Miguel Rojas can hold it down, and the Dodgers have to supplement that by having him be off 2 days a week or whatever it is. And, that's just something they might have to go with, and maybe focus on the outfield. And that's something we also talked about is the Dodgers can focus on one spot, one bat. Doesn't matter whether it's shortstop or second base or outfield. If they can get one bat, then they can figure out the rest, and they have enough to make it worthwhile, assuming Muncy and Mookie Betts both come back this year. So, yeah, shout out to Miguel Rojas. He's been more than the Dodgers could ask for in a few different ways this season, and hopefully he continues to keep hitting well, because I saw right now if the season ended and his batting average and OPS would have been the highest or one of the highest of his career so far. So hopefully he can keep that going. We're going to finish up with a little bit more of the trade talks and thoughts, some injury updates, and some new rules on the Home Run Derby. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I love sports, and you probably love sports, and I love them so much that I never want them to stop. And that's why I love baseball, because it's in the summer when there's not a lot of sports going on. And now with the playoffs over for the NBA and NHL, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't really doing the thing that we want them to do. Even with the Olympics coming at the end of July, there's still a lot of not as much to do. But FanDuel lets you keep the sports going whenever you want, because all you have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime you're in the mood, whether that's a bet on the Dodgers, whether it's a daily game like on Tuesday. If you think the Dodgers are going to win, FanDuel can help you out there. If you think the Dodgers are going to win the NL West, I'm sure the odds aren't that great and you won't win much, but you can put down that too. If you think the Dodgers are going to win the World Series, you can put that down too. If you want to watch women's basketball and you think, other teams, the Sparks are going to play well or whatever the case is, FanDuel has all that for you. All you got to do is check out FanDuel. And right now, all summer long, FanDuel's hooking up customers with a booster bonus every single day, something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to fanduel.com/locked on and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. I want to thank you for being an everydayer. If you are one, everydayer is just someone that listens or watches every day. And remember, you can go beyond the podcast, become a Locked On Dodgers insider at joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. You will get text updates from us anytime there's breaking news or, starting lineup things that may be out of the ordinary, or any rumors now that the rumor season's coming up, or any thoughts on big news in the baseball world. And you can also text us back and ask us any questions or have anything like that, or have some insider perks, like being your questions being answered before other people's questions when we do mailbag episodes. So that's joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. All right, let's finish up. I mentioned the note about Garrett Crochet and the Dodgers already having made an offer. So obviously, you would imagine they're still going to be in on him. Bob Nightingale also said that the White Sox might be keeping Luis Robert Jr. just for the fact that he is struggling a little bit this season. Might not be able to maximize. Realistically, you lose half a season, but you might be able to get max value for him in the offseason when people can only think of the good that he might do rather than the bad that he's doing this season. But again, everything that's being said right now, this along with the Bo Bichette and Vlad Guerrero Jr. maybe not being traded, it cannot be taken with a grain of salt, because obviously, if a team like the Blue Jays or someone in the Blue Jays organization said, oh yeah, we're trading Bo Bichette, you lose a little bit of leverage. And if you say, oh, well, we think we want to keep him around, now a team has more incentive to try and convince you that, here's a deal or here's a package that should entice you to trade him and, give up that idea that you might want to run it back with him next season. So everything is fluid at the moment. We are officially in July. So the rumors will start ramping up here in the next few weeks. We might see teams start separating themselves in good and bad ways, whether that's away from the rest of the teams that are fighting for a wild card spot or into the rest of the teams that are fighting for a wild card spot. But we should get a lot more action and rumors and teams figuring out what they want to do. And the White Sox, it doesn't make sense for them to hold on to guys, because the longer you hold on to them, the more value they have to lose. Luis Robert Jr., if you want him for 3 postseasons instead of 2, you want him now. You don't want to wait till the offseason and give up something for just 2 years of him. And then, Garrett Crochet too. If you want him for this postseason and the other postseasons where you have him under team control, you want to trade him now. And, there's obviously teams that have had some turnarounds in the last few weeks, like the Mets. Looks like they might keep Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso's not really a target for the Dodgers anyway, so it doesn't really make sense or doesn't really matter. Teams like the Angels, who won 6 in a row, but they're still kind of out of it. Luis Rengifo is obviously going to be on the Dodgers' radar and could be rumored there. So we'll just have to continue to monitor teams and who's flying in and out and the rumors. But as with any July, you take every rumor thinking about who has an ulterior motive to release this rumor. And, whether it's an agent trying to get his player maybe out of an unfavorable situation, whether it's a team trying to gain leverage somehow, whether if it's, a team trying to get, like I said, gain leverage for, oh, we don't really need anybody, or, oh, we don't want to trade this guy. Everything is coming from a source with maybe some ulterior motives. So just remember that as the rumors start to pop up. We got some injury updates over the weekend for the Dodgers. Max Muncy was on the field in San Francisco doing not a lot, but doing some drills. He seems to be progressing better. He can't come off the injured list before the middle of July because he got transferred to the 60-day. But, if things continue to trend well, hopefully he can be back before the end of July. I do think he's eligible to come off before the end of July, towards the end of it. So, and then we got an update on Joe Kelly that he will not be back by the All-Star break. I don't know when he's eligible. I think he's eligible earlier than Max Muncy is, but it'll be a while, maybe even after the trade deadline. And, it's one of those where the Dodgers will have to be a little bit more upfront with themselves in terms of some of these guys coming back after the trade deadline, and not necessarily saying, oh, well, getting Joe Kelly back will be like making a trade. Getting Bruce Dargado back will be like making a trade. Like, if we've had that happen the last couple of years when the Dodgers haven't had maybe the biggest splashes at the deadline that they've done in the past, and you talk yourself into a couple of years ago Walker Buehler coming back, and he didn't. And you talk yourself into, other guys coming back in and they didn't, or, Blake Trinan coming back a couple years ago and it didn't really work out. So I think the Dodgers will be mindful of that, but also knowing that, hey, you know what, we do expect him to be back realistically and in different, like Mookie, Mookie's going to come back. So you don't need to make a trade to replace Mookie, but you do need to make a trade for a bat because you're missing a bat in the lineup right now because there's guys that haven't been hitting as well as you thought they were before the season started. A starting pitcher, you probably do need one starting pitcher just for the simple fact of, we'll see what happens with Yamamoto. You don't know what's going to happen with Kershaw, and you can't necessarily count on Glasnow. I mean, he's going to reach a career high in innings soon, and they're going to continue to monitor him. So, starting pitcher for sure, relief pitcher, I wouldn't say for sure, but probably something the Dodgers look at, and a bat for sure. And anything else on top of that is just, gravy at this point. The last thing I want to talk about is the home run derby got some new rules, mainly to combat the fatigue that guys get toward the end of the derby once they kind of make it past the first round or two, and also combat try to quell the fears of teams of guys that are going out there and swinging like 200, 300 times in a home run derby, trying to hit the ball out of the park and, maybe tiring themselves out there. I don't think it changes. I know for sure probably doesn't change Jeff's thoughts. I don't think it changes my thoughts about Ohtani participating. I would love to see it, but would rather not see it this year in particular, just because, let Ohtani stay healthy any way he can and not put any unmitigated risk on it. But now with the timed rounds, it's not as many pitches as you can throw in those time slots. It's now the first two rounds are capped at 40 pitches, not 40, or 40 swings, I'm assuming. Maybe not 40 pitches. I don't know. We'll have to see. It's worded 40 pitches, but, I don't know if you have to throw 40 times or if you can throw 50 times, but you don't swing at 10. We'll have to wait and see on that. The first round will not be head-to-head like it's been the last few years. It will be top four scores will advance to the next round, and if there's a tie, the longest home run will play into that. So, and then it'll go bracketed in the second round, 2 versus 3, 1 versus 4, and then the last round it goes down to 27 pitches. There's still some incentives for hitting the ball far that gets you extra bonus outs, but that's the logistics of it. I think it'll be good. The move to timed without outs or anything like that was great. We got to see a lot of crazy rounds with a lot of home runs. But I do think the guys were swinging a lot, and you were losing a little bit of the artistic value of just throwing, and it's hard to watch on TV. So maybe this will slow things down a little bit. You'll get to admire the home runs a little bit more, and it'll be a new strategy for guys to kind of figure out. So that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to find us where we get podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe where we get your podcasts. If you're on YouTube, you can check out Locked On Sports Today or Locked On Sports Los Angeles, 224/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network. You can become a Locked On Dodgers Insider at joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. You can follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. You can find Jeff on Twitter at Snydog. I'm at Vincent91. You can DM us, or you can also send us an email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail or leave us a text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us when you get in your car, or if you're at home, tear your smart device, play podcasts, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.